Ukraine waited for Russia's 6:40 a.m. attack, then triggered a perfect trap. U.S. Navy. Moscow time is ticking. 6:30 a.m. on October. In less than 10 minutes, Russian cruise missiles will fire into Ukraine. But Kiev isn't sleeping. Ukrainian air defenses are fully engaged. They intercept 3 Kh-101 cruise missiles. An hour later, another volley of 6-caliber cruise missiles fired from warships in the Black Sea. But Ukraine's ready for these as well. 4 of them are shot down, only to hit their target, causing power outages across western Ukraine. But this wasn't Russia's main attack. Not even close. You see, all these strikes were the result of bait. Ukraine had received intelligence that Russia was planning something big. A massive missile strike aimed at Kiev around 6:40 a.m. Moscow time. So Ukraine set a trap. They preemptively struck a Russian S-400 battery near Hulipola in the Luhansk Oblast. That battery was then out of the fight, and then they waited. For the past few months, Russia has been launching almost daily missile strikes against Ukraine. This one, however, was different. This was going to be the mother of all storms. Ukraine expected the worst. According to U.S. officials, up to 70 Russian cruise missiles and 30 ballistic missiles would be fired. Russian bombers took off from Alenia and Engels air bases. Their Tu-95 bombers flew over the Caspian Sea in the Volgograd region, approaching Ukraine from the southeast. These bombers would serve as flying launch platforms for the cruise missiles. Meanwhile, Russian warships in the Black Sea moved into firing positions. They would launch caliber cruise missiles and ballistic missiles. The Black Sea Fleet's newest and most advanced Admiral Makarov frigate was also in position. Russia didn't want to lose this expensive warship, so it kept its distance and launched its missiles from beyond the range of Ukraine's HARM anti-ship missiles. This was the biggest Russian missile salvo since October. The price tag of all these missiles runs into hundreds of millions of dollars. To put this in perspective, the total number of cruise missiles Russia fired in 2022 was estimated to be around 1,000, and here they were launching almost 70 in a single day. What was the target? A massive blow against the Ukrainian energy infrastructure. Russia wanted to plunge all of Ukraine into darkness, leave its people without electricity and heating in the middle of winter. But Ukraine was prepared. As soon as the first alarm went off, Ukrainians started sharing footage of destroyed Russian missiles on social media. The first wave of Russian missiles was largely intercepted. Ukraine managed to shoot down 47 out of 69 cruise missiles. 12 ballistic missiles were also fired from Russian-occupied areas of Ukraine. All of them were shot down, but Russia didn't stop. They launched a second wave of missile strikes. Again, Russian bombers took off from Alenia and Engels. Once again, they approached Ukraine from the southeast. Once again, Russian warships moved into firing positions. At this point, Ukrainians realized that the strike was far from over. Ukraine was still not out of the woods. Their air defenses were pushed to the limit. In total, Ukraine shot down 55 out of 71 cruise missiles and all 12 ballistic missiles. In the aftermath of the strike, debris fell on Romanian territory. No casualties or damage were reported, but it does say something about the effectiveness of Ukraine's air defenses. Russian missiles were falling all over the place. Some of them landed just 20 miles from Romania's border with NATO-aligned Bulgaria. The general sentiment in Ukraine and the West is that this was a massive failure for Russia. But is it really? See, despite Ukraine shooting down more than 80% of the missiles, some did get through. 3 people were killed and several others injured. Most of the power plants in western Ukraine were damaged. This caused blackouts in the areas of Lviv, Ivanov, Frankfurt, Volyn, and Zakopasha. Several districts were left without electricity. This is exactly what Russia wanted to achieve. They don't care if they lose dozens of expensive missiles. If they can knock Ukraine out of the fight, if they can force Zelensky to the negotiating table, then it's all worth it. This is why we can't call this an unqualified victory for Ukraine. Sure, their air defenses did a hell of a job, but Russia achieved its secondary goal. Now Putin can tell the world that he knocked Ukraine out of the fight, but the Ukrainian leadership is too scared to show its face. He can claim that only he can bring peace to the country. And let's not forget the Iranian-made Shahed drones. Iran supplied Russia with hundreds of these kamikaze drones. And so far, Russia has only used a fraction of them. We're talking about dozens of strikes per week. There's no way Ukraine can intercept every single drone. Some of them will inevitably slip through. And when they do, the damage is done. One Iranian drone can take out an entire power plant, plunging thousands of people into darkness. If you think about it, Russia could have saved themselves a lot of money by developing a cheaper drone. Now, imagine what would happen if Russia suddenly ups the ante, if it launches hundreds of drones per week, if it overwhelms Ukraine's air defenses. Even with Western help, there's only so much Ukraine can do, and the constant drone strikes are slowly but surely draining their resources. You see, a typical HARM anti-air missile costs around $1 million. Ukraine currently launches between 3 and 5 HARM missiles per day. That's between $3 and $5 million per day spent on intercepting Shahed drones. Meanwhile, Russia can produce up to 100 of these drones per month. Each one costs Tehran around $100,000. So the Russians are saving money while dealing damage. That's why Ukraine needs to get its act together.
So far.
They've done a great job at intercepting the Russian missiles, but the drone threat remains. We have yet to see how Ukraine will deal with the Iranian kamikaze drones. When the swarms come, when they overwhelm Ukrainian air defenses, then we'll know how the real battle of wills is going. Because one thing is for sure, this is just the beginning. Russia doesn't have many options left. Its economy is bleeding, its military is crumbling, and its political influence is rapidly declining. For Putin, there's no way out of this quagmire. He's trapped. And when a cornered animal has nowhere else to go, it bites. Don't expect mercy. Speaking of mercy, Russia is reportedly targeting civilian vessels in the Black Sea. Just yesterday, a Russian Lancet drone struck an oil tanker off the coast of Novorossiysk. This is exactly what we warned about in our previous videos. Putin might declare martial law in the Black Sea. He might shut down civilian shipping. This would cut off Russia's Black Sea fleet from desperately needed supplies. Also, such a move would allow Putin to frame Ukraine as an aggressor. The Russian propaganda machine would go into overdrive, claiming that Ukraine is attacking Russian civilians. And if the international outcry is too strong, Putin always has the option of blaming Ukraine on false pretenses. According to Article 51 of the UN Charter, all members have the right to individual and collective self-defense. But Russia would argue that this doesn't apply to the Black Sea, that the closure of the Black Sea Straits is justified because Russia is under attack. It's a legal gray area. And unfortunately, international organizations like the UN are toothless when it comes to Russia. They won't intervene. At this point, anything goes.
Russia will use any excuse to stay afloat.
And Putin's actions are getting increasingly desperate. Right now, he's targeting Ukrainian civilians. Soon, he will resort to tactical nuclear weapons. And when that happens, all bets are off. Now, before we wrap things up, we'd like to thank all our supporters for their continued support. You guys make it possible for us to keep making these videos, so thank you. And if you'd like to show your support, you can do so by liking this video. If you enjoyed the video, then please consider supporting us. We would greatly appreciate it. Ukraine should have shot down 100% of those missiles. It's a moral victory at best. And that's all the major news. Stay safe.